Hello everyone, thank you for joining us again. We'll be talking about the weekly Parsha. This week it actually is a doubly connected Parsha. It's Matot-Masei or Matot-Masei. We'll actually be focusing on Matot, and we're looking more at the ideas of what's going on in the Parsha. As a broader topic, this is based on a shir by Rav Bernstein. This is not online to the extent of my knowledge. He gave this to us last year. And he was speaking about bitachon and hishtadlut, right? How exactly to see how our own personal effort are supposed to go into the world, and how much we're supposed to rely on God for parnasa and for all other things. How exactly are we supposed to balance these out? So we actually see an example of this in this week's parsha. It's towards the end of Bamidbar. We're about to go into Eretz Yisrael, and Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, right, two of the tribes, they had very many holdings. So they're a little reticent about. They saw that the land on the east of the Jordan, so not an actual Eretz Yisrael proper, was a very good place for them to stay. So they asked Moshe, please, Moshe, can we stay on this side of the Jordan? Please don't make us cross over, right? That's in chapter 32, verse 5, and then we see in verse 6 Moshe's reaction. Vayomer Moshe lifnei Gad v'lifnei Reuven, ha'achechem yavo l'milchama v'atem teshuvo. What, will your brothers go to war and they'll sit here? You're not going to cross the Jordan with them to wage war? So this reaction admittedly startled, or seems to have startled Reuven and Gad, because in verse 17, they say, "V'anachnu nechalatz choshim lifnei bnei Israel," right? And then the pasuk goes on, that we'll come armed before bnei Israel. We'll go first. Then Moshe later on says, no, that's not a proper reaction. Really, V'yomer aleh Moshe, im tasun et hadavar hazeh, im techaltu lifnei Hashem lamilchama. Right? No, you don't go before Bnei Israel. You'll go before Hashem. And then Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven get the point, and they say, "You're right. We'll go before Hashem." A few verses later. So what's going on here? This is a little bit strange. So the Or HaChaim explains that, what did Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven say that they did? They didn't want to go help their brothers go fight a war? They just want to sit lazily watching their livestock and pasturing their lands? So the answer was no. It's just that what happened right before, I believe we spoke about this last week, was there was a war against Sichon and Og, against their peoples, and we just completely mowed them down. There was we destroyed them. So Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven were like, this isn't up to us. This is all God. We don't need to do anything. We'll just stay on our side of the land. God will take care of things, and all will be well. And Moshe responds, no. What are you doing? You have to cross the Jordan. Help your brothers. So now Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven are like, oh, this isn't up to God. It's up to us. So we're going to cross the Jordan, and we'll go first. And then Moshe, and this is the Chiddush, said, you misunderstood. It's not that it's up to God. And it's not that it's up to you or Bnei Israel. It's both. It's both people working together. Now, why is this a chiddush? This seems obvious because when many people think of bitachon, hishtadlut, how does this work? Well, you put in your hishtadlut, the effort ends, and now you wait for God for the result. And the answer to that is the chiddush of Moshe in this parsha is no. Really, they work together. That when a person goes out to work, and they work for 10 hours a day, that could be bitachon building hours. That as you're working, and as you're putting your effort into the world to make a parnasa to support yourself and your family and the community and everyone else who you're helping, right? Those are 10 hours that you're actually building bitachon with God. Because that's exactly, while you're putting in hishtadlut, that's also while you're relying on God to make your endeavors successful. At the same time, these two aren't mutually exclusive ideas. It's not, there's one thing, you stop, and then there's another thing, and that's that. And we see this repeatedly throughout Chumash. After all, when Yaakov is coming back to Eretz Yisrael, and Esav is coming to meet him aggressively, what does Yaakov do? He does two things. He prepares for war, and he prays to God. It's not one or the other. It's both working together. And that's that again we see that chiddush with Moshe. And this is actually what the Chovot HaLevavot says, right? Chovot HaLevavot, one of the first Musar works written by the Rishonim about 1,000 years ago, that success comes with both in mind. That you need to realize that whatever you're doing, you're actually involving God in that process. And we actually see a hint of this. Now, That's a very nice idea, but how exactly does this work? When is there, say, too much hishtadlut? When is there too much chitzoniut here? Or we're not really putting in proper effort? Because again, there's always effort, and then there's too much effort or inappropriate effort. So what does that look like? So we actually see that by Yosef. What did Yosef do? He was trapped in jail for 10 years, right? And then he helps the butler, and he tells the butler, hey, when you go up to Paro, do you mind just mentioning that I helped you out? And he's punished for this. And he gets 2 extra years in prison. Now, if we're to look at that, it's very easy to criticize, but Yosef was in prison for 10 years. Saying one sentence of hishtadlut in those 10 years really isn't so bad in the long scheme of things. So why was he punished so harshly with another 2 years in prison? And the answer is, Rav Bernstein gives, is because who is he asking? He's asking a butler. The butler of Paro. Now how do people like that often come into their positions? They step on people, they climb over people, they're aggressive, they're not necessarily looking out for their colleagues' best interests. They want to help themselves. So why was Yosef asking a person who is very unlikely to be willing to help him? And that was considered inappropriate. But so we get proper perspective, we're not punishing Yosef for doing hishtadlut. He did hishtadlut, and he's rewarded for it. What happened? Again, 2 years later, Paro has a dream, right? And then the butler only then suddenly remembers Yosef and says, oh, by the way, actually there's this guy in prison who's really good at solving dreams, when there's something in it for him. Yeah? Fine, so Paro brings up Yosef. Yosef interprets the dreams. And then what does Yosef do? Without any prompting, he starts giving Paro suggestions. You should hire a young guy who's smart, who should do this. He's talking about himself. And then I think, I can't remember exactly, but he may even suggest himself. But regardless, he at least put his own efforts forward. And that was considered perfectly appropriate. He wasn't punished for that. He eventually became the viceroy of Egypt. So here we see this very nuanced idea of how bitachon and hishtadlut are supposed to work together, right, locked into this parasha, like so subtly in the psukim. And ultimately, this is really supposed to, when we go out to work, this is meant, this whole idea of bitachon and hishtadlut and seeing God mixed up into our efforts, is that as we're doing our efforts, it's really up to God to say if we get success. If we get success, that's what God wanted, and we can relax. If that's not, if success is not what we're going to get, that should also be fine, as long as we're doing our own part. And one of the amazing benefits of this is that really, it gives you peace of mind, because after all, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, God is involved with you, and in that effort, as you're building together, you get to see if I'm successful or not. That's not up to me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Now it's up to God to try to help me out. Thank you so much for staying with us. Have a wonderful Shabbat, and enjoy the psukim. Take care.